Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we need to. Yes, thank you. I wish I knew everything that was just going on because it sounded fantastic and I heard people laughing, which is absolutely great. So as she said, my name is Mary Schnack and I'm here from the United States. This is, as I like to say, only my fourth trip to Iceland. I really like being here and like coming here. And I've had the pleasure of speaking here once before when I gave a talk on the 10 dumb things said to someone with cancer. And I think at that point I had cancer 3 times. And so now that I'm at 7, I think that speech would be the 100 dumb things said to someone with cancer. But because what's happened is the last 4 years I've had cancer come back 4 times. And besides the 4 times with cancer, I've had a pulmonary embolism, the blood clot in the lung from the tumor shooting a clot up. And I've had part of my intestine removed. So, you know, there's all this stuff to deal with that most of you here can understand, because I would guess that most of you here are either survivors or friends or family members of survivors. And it's like I, after this last surgery, was talking to my doctor about medicine to go on. And he was recommending that I keep taking one of the medicines I was taking. And I said, well, I really feel like it causes short-term memory problems, and that's created a problem for me at work. So I really, don't want to keep taking that. I said, but if you have something that creates long-term memory problems so I don't remember what I've gone through and then I keep going through it, I said I'd be much more interested in that. So my cancer, because it gets very personal, as you know, my cancer is endometrial stromal sarcoma. It's a very rare form of uterine cancer. So there's not many people who have it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But the first time I was diagnosed was in 1996, and we'll just take it there now. From there, I'll go over the 7 things I've learned from having cancer 7 times, how to thrive, not just survive. Okay, so what we do with this is I've been given about a half hour here to talk, so we will have time to cover 3 things. So each one of these graphics represents one of the 7 things that I talk about. So I'd like to hear from you which of the 3 things you'd like me to pick. Don't be shy. What, the telephone booth? Okay. What else? The goat. Great. One other. The lucky shamrocks. Okay. Guys, you were far too shy. I figured if there was any men in the room, this one would be picked for sure. So, okay. So we'll go. So the first one that you didn't select was the turtle. And I'm just going to tell you real quickly that what that is there's a fable about the turtle and the rabbit, the tortoise and the hare. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. I did a little survey at Runa's house, and it was about half. So the tortoise and the hare, the turtle was moving along very slowly, and the rabbit was making fun of the turtle about how slow it moves. So the turtle challenged the rabbit to a race. And the rabbit said, of course, and was so far ahead of the turtle in the race that it decided to lay down and take a nap. Well, you can imagine what happened. The turtle plodded ahead and won the race, and that's what I call living authentically. The next one is the phone booth. And it's very clear that what that is about communicating. So the turtle is be true to yourself. Phone booth is communicating. Now, this goes along with the speech I gave last time, the 10 dumb things said to someone with cancer. As you know, we have a lot of things that are said to us that are really not appropriate. that can sometimes be hurtful, but it's rarely meant to be that way. People don't know what to say because they don't know what to say. You know, they want to be helpful. They want to let you know they care. So I have truly come to believe that in the communication realm, we need to take some responsibility. Rather than complaining about friends who don't help, we need to learn to ask for help. I don't think I really understood that till maybe my 5th surgery. The 5th surgery is when part of my intestine was removed, and it was a very difficult recovery. And what my friends did, that and several of my other surgeries as well, is they put together a food list. So every day somebody was bringing me a meal. I'm single. My daughter is in her mid-20s, so I live alone. So they'd bring food over every night, and generally whoever brought food would sit and talk for a while, if not stay and eat with me. But what happens was I was alone 23 hours a day. So not only was I lonely, but I really needed help. I wasn't well enough to do my laundry. I wasn't well enough to get up and really fix my own breakfast or fix my own lunch, even though there was food there to do it. And but the thing was, I didn't let anybody know that. So should I look askance at my friends that, boy, here I was all alone, and I was only there an hour a day? I was also scared that if I asked somebody to come over, and let's say they came over at 3 o'clock, that would be when I was napping. Because, you know, we don't know when the fatigue's going to hit and when we're going to get tired. So what am I worried about? I'm worried about my guest. I could have easily have said to my guest, I'd love to have you come over. And if I'm not awake, just sit and watch TV or something while I sleep. Or go ahead and get up and leave, but at least come for a little bit. So my 6th and my 7th surgery, boy, I had people there almost all the time. And even if they just watched me sleep, they were there. But I had to learn to ask. So yes, it does take an indomitable spirit to live with cancer. One woman wrote, I guess my biggest pet peeve in the world is that not only do we have to live with this disease and the fears, anxieties, constant monitoring, side effects from surgeries, and the treatments that save our lives, but we also have to live with the heartache of adhesions, blood clots, bowel obstructions, heart and lung damage, suppressed immune systems, and on and on and on. I mean, can't we just get the cancer and graduate? It's adding all the insults to the injuries. And that's something that many of our friends don't understand. They don't know. We call it scanxiety. You know, it's 3 months. It's time for another scan. So for 2 months, 2.5 months, you've gone along fine. But now that scan is a week away. And now it's like, oh my gosh, what is that scan going to find? Even though you've been feeling great. So I think it's important. I like to change the word from survivor to thriver. How to thrive after you have cancer. Survivor inspirer. How we can inspire others who go through what we go through, and other family members as well. I would say I am called just as often by a family member or a close friend of someone who has been recently diagnosed as I actually am by someone with a diagnosis of cancer. And I think one of the biggest questions we ask ourselves is, will it make a difference to anybody if I'm sick? If I die? You know, that's what we want to know. It's how can we make a difference? Well, hopefully, as I say in my other speech, we've learned that is truly the number one dumb statement. And I don't know about you, but my friends and family let me know the answer to that question, and it is a resounding yes. They let me know on a daily basis by their countless get well cards, emails, phone calls, bouquets of flowers, and the other care packages, such as creams and lotions and teas and cookies and pajamas and jewelry. You know, one of the side benefits, well, not one of, probably the only side benefit of the surgery is whenever I have surgery, I lose about 20 pounds. Now, you know, if I wouldn't put on that 20 pounds back on, I wouldn't have it to lose again the next surgery, but, you know, that's the way it goes. So I tell people they don't want my, people go, oh, wow, you look great. And I go, you don't want my weight loss program. But, but people send brownies and cookies, and I, you know, and it's great. And, you know, then at that point, I'm thin enough to eat them all. So my parents, when they were in their 80s, still came out to help me after one of my most difficult surgeries and treatments. I used to live in a small city in Arizona, which meant pretty much friends flying in. They flew in from all over the country. It was really great. So a few, and you know, and I've learned very well from my daughter about different ways to communicate. I remember, well, my daughter was 14 years old when I was diagnosed, and about 2 surgeries ago, a friend of mine made the comment, wow, Erica, my daughter's name, Erica, has grown up with cancer. She's really had, you know, dealt with cancer almost her entire life. And wow, I had never thought of that. I mean, I've always known that I'm going to be okay. But I've never thought about it, how she doesn't truly know that, and she does, and the worry goes on and on and on for her. And that was a good awareness for me. I know when she was younger, and a few months after my first abdominal surgery, and I have about a, 16-inch scar across my stomach, she had seen it before, and she had seen it, fairly soon after the surgery. But a few months after the surgery, she hadn't seen it for a while, and she gasped. She says, "Mommy, that scar is still there. Are you going to have it forever? When will that scar go away?" Well, after this last surgery, again, they keep going through the same incision, fortunately. And she by the time I saw her, the staples had been taken out and the tape was on. And she says, "So does the tape just fall off?" And I said, "No, I'm supposed to take it off on Monday." So on Monday, she says, "Mommy, can I take your tape off?" And I said, "Erica, that's a very private part of my body." I said, "No, I will take the tape off. I will be fine." And then the middle of the day, it just rang a bell with me. How does my daughter tell if I'm okay? In her own little way, it's by looking at that scar. That scar is the symbol to her of how I am. So I took the tape off. The scar was totally healed. And that night I said to her, "Erica, do you want to see the scar?" And she says, "Yeah." And I understood why she wanted to see that scar. And that's why we have to communicate. And we have to realize the other ways that people have of communicating with us. Okay. The next one that we're not doing is basketball hoop. And that was about developing a team. As we know, we cannot go through this alone. And just because I have to, one of my team captains is here, Runa. So she's a big part of my team that helps me get through this each time. And so coming to Iceland so soon after my surgery was very special to me. Okay, be an expert. The lottery tickets. As I told you, endometrial stromal sarcoma, which we like to call ESS because it's a lot easier to say ESS, is an extremely rare cancer, especially for my first occurrence to be at the age of 40. So you can do the math, figure out how old I am now. So when you go through all the odds, we figured I had about a 1 in 1 million chance of getting this. So one of my friends says, "Well, I hope you're buying lottery tickets." So what was really important is that I become an expert in this cancer and I learn as much about it as I could. But I've got to tell you, that was really hard to do. I'm sure many of you have gone to the web to do research, and it can be really daunting and really tough getting through that. And I do a lot of internet research for my business, but I just couldn't do it for me. You know, I couldn't get past the bad news to get to the news that I wanted to see or I wanted to know more about. So, I had had so many friends asking me what they could do for me, and I didn't have answers for all of them. So a couple of friends I went back to and said, you know, you can research this for me. So after my third time, I had what's called brachytherapy. And again, it's a very hard thing to research on the web because brachytherapy is predominantly used for men after prostate cancer. So, I mean, you know, it was hard for me to get past the prostate cancer and find what I needed to find about what brachytherapy was going to be for me. So one of my girlfriends said to me, she goes, well, do internet research. You could do that, Mary. I said, yeah, I know, Ellen. I don't want to do that. I want you to do it for me. And she, oh, right. So, like I said, keep communicating, you know, keep laying it out to them, but become an expert. Another thing that happened for me that was a real blessing is I had an employee. Her name is Jessica, and we were having lunch right after I got back to work from one of my surgeries, and she said, well, do you have any type of support group that you go to? Well, the American Cancer Society, as I'm sure the Cancer Society does here, has a lot of wonderful support groups. The problem for me was I was in a very small town of only 11,000 people, and it was predominantly a retirement community. And the support groups that I went to were mostly women with breast cancer, and were mostly people who were retired. So they didn't have the issues that I had with owning a couple of businesses and needing to get back to work. And so, needless, you know, they just didn't work that well for me. So I mentioned this to Jessica, and the next day Jessica comes to me and says, I hope I haven't crossed any boundaries here, but I did some internet research. And she found a listserv on Yahoo that was specifically for endometrial stromal sarcoma. And I've got to tell you, that Yahoo group has changed my life. Especially with getting it 4 times in less than 4 years. At first, so what it is, it's women from all over the world. We have women from Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines, and the UK, and so it's not just across the states, from Canada, that come on to talk about either that they've been diagnosed with ESS. We just had a woman come on yesterday that her mother-in-law has been diagnosed with it, and it is a wonderful support group. Really, really wonderful. I'll tell you, I will never need to do internet research again. I can put it out to the group, and boy, they will come back with answers. They are phenomenal. And at first, I wasn't real sure I wanted to be part of this group. I mean, you know, it's a group none of us wish we would have to join, right? And I thought, how often do I want emails coming in reminding me that I have cancer? But 2 years later, I am still on that listserv, and I still read all the posts every day. And, you know, so then in the back of my mind it was that, well, when I get to the point where it's not coming back so often, and I've been a couple years cancer-free, that's when I'll probably drop off. But now I know I will never do that, because they need to keep hearing our voices who are still alive and well and functioning, you know, for those who are newly diagnosed and scared. Because one of the things I always think about is who wants to hear my story. I mean, one of the main fears we have as cancer patients is the fear of it coming back. So who wants to hear about it coming back 6 times? Well, now I've realized, and my group taught me that. Rosalie, who was the mother of our group, who had survived DSS for 29 years. And it's very hard because 2 months ago she died. And boy, that was a loss for our group because she was our mother. But she wrote me and she said, you know how I want you to start signing your name? And I said, how? She says, I want you to start signing your name 14-year survivor. And I said, hallelujah. Because what I always, the way it had always been presented to me and the way I was thinking is, if you've had the cancer removed in January, so like now I'd be almost a 4-month survivor. And then you're a 2-year survivor. And then you're a 3-year survivor. And one time I got to 4 years and 11 months. And you know how they kind of just give you that term that, 5 years is like the goal. Oh, so you can imagine how devastating at 4 years, 11 months it was to hear it had come back. So then I have cancer. So then instead of being a 4-year survivor, now I'm back to being a 1-month survivor. And that's really discouraging. And she was right. I am a 14-year cancer survivor. And it's great for me to look at it that way, and it's great for me to pose it that way to other people. So then we have the swimsuit, and that's all about advocating. So I'll just tell you that story real quick because the guys were too shy to shout it out. So when I had my surgery and had the incision across, I was still young enough that I was wearing a bikini. And I have to admit, I am not wearing a bikini anymore. But 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was. And the standard surgery does an incision up the middle here. And they like to do that because they want to go in and really explore and really look around. So I asked them a lot of questions about that. And they answered the questions, and we went back and forth. And I said, well, I would really like the incision to go across. I'd really like the bikini cut if I could. And we went back and forth. And when I woke up from my surgery, I found out that they did the incision across. And that's because I advocated for myself. But we won't go much more into the advocation because this one wasn't picked. So now we will talk about the goat. What keeps us going? You want me to leave that one up there? Should I leave that up there, or can I go on to the next one? Okay, so this one is about feed your soul. What keeps us going? For some women on my ESS Yahoo list, it's their goats. Yes, you heard me right. Tammy Jo from Idaho. It's her goats that keep her going. That's what she loves. A friend of mine in Albuquerque, for her it was her horses. For another woman on the ESS list, it was buying their old family home and renovating it. For many, it's their grandchildren they talk about. For me, it's the work I do internationally, empowering women to let their voices be heard. This is when I spoke at the Fifth World Islamic Economic Forum in Jakarta, Indonesia. And what I found out there is going to Indonesia, and especially after 9/11 and after our Twin Towers were hit by Al-Qaeda and the terrorists, there's been a lot more information about the Muslims and how much the Muslims are discriminated against, the Muslims overall, because there's a few bad ones. And now the few bad ones are very bad, but that doesn't mean that all Muslims are bad. Well, I found out from going to this forum that we also don't understand about the women. One of the women, these were the shoes she was wearing under her robe. Not what we would imagine, right? Another woman talked about her $1 billion a year business. She was from Malaysia. And I went to her when she was done speaking. I said, did you say $1 billion? And what Malaysia has privatized the roads. And she's a road construction company. So yes, she said $1 billion. That feeds my soul to meet these women and talk to them. This is Mary Salafu from Ghana. Mary was the first woman who gave me that spark and gave me that passion. I'm sorry the picture is so bad. This was before digital pictures were taken, so it's a scan. But Mary was a single mother. Well, no, she wasn't. Mary was married with a son. And and I was working for a humanitarian aid group. That's why I was in Ghana teaching communications. And Mary had come to that group and asked them for help. And she was in the rural areas of Ghana, and what they did, they taught her how to start a nursery, to do seedlings for the reforestation, because that point is when people were stripping and burning the land, and they were trying to stop that. So Mary started a nursery, and pretty soon Mary was making 3 times what the average person makes with that nursery. But Mary didn't stop there. She opened an animal husbandry business. She opened a fish hatchery. She opened a bakery. The bakery, she brought in 49 women as partners. She went to about the same number of villages around her and started women's economic power groups. Mary taught me about giving back and the power of that. These are other women in Africa that I've worked with. And my passion is to help women let their voices be heard. So I started Up From the Dust. It supports the global growth of women microenterprises, where I import items made by women in developing countries and bring them to the U.S. so that we can help our sisters grow their business around the world. And in case you're interested, at 8 o'clock tonight, we're having an Up From the Dust reception at Cafe Haiti. Does everybody know where Cafe Haiti is? Okay, so if you'd like to know more about Up From the Dust, I'd love to see you there. So this is a woman making a batik in South Africa. These are 2 women from Guatemala. I put in a special order to have this logo made onto a business card holder. Look at their faces. Look at that pride. I think you can see why this type of work feeds my soul. This is women in Swaziland. Now, you might wonder what this woman has to smile about. Swaziland has the #1 rate of HIV infection in the world. Almost all of the middle generation has died. So this woman is a grandmother, and she is doing this work so she can send her grandchildren to school. 4 out of her 5 children are dead. And she's making these high-quality placemats, and look how happy she is. I will keep going here. I bring in beaded items from the Kenya Breast Cancer Support Group. These are women who have had breast cancer whose husbands have kicked them out because they're mutilated. Their employers have fired them because they're missing too much time at work for treatment. So a woman there who owned her own business and had breast cancer and had a very supportive family saw this happening and got the women together and taught them how to bead. And so I'm proud to say I was the first person to buy from their group. I buy from women in Afghanistan and from Rwanda. This is a group of gals from Kenya, ages 13 to 23, that the Nike Foundation sent me over to Kenya to do communication training with them. This is Maureen. All these women, there's Joyce. This is Cecilia. I want to tell you just a quick story about Cecilia. Cecilia was orphaned at the age of 13. And when she was about 20, she's 25 now, when she was about 20, she won a business plan contest. $200, and she was able to start her knitting business. And through her knitting business, she was able to support a younger brother and sister. So the last time I was in Kenya, I went to see, I don't have it here. I went to see Cecilia. I'll have to make sure I put that slide back in. I mean, our homeless live better than Cecilia lives. All these girls that were in this communication training lived in slums, but they were leaders of groups in slums to try to help make a better life. Well, so I bought scarves from Cecilia and sold them. And about 2 months ago, the slum where Cecilia lives burned. 55,000 people homeless. And Cecilia had found an old mattress and was trying to put walls back up where her room had been. And so I put out to my friends, hey, let's help Cecilia. And my friends, by sending in $20 to $100, we were able to send Cecilia $700. $700. Not a lot of money, but nice, right? That we were able to send that to her to help her out. She moved out of the slums. $700 changed her life. She was able to go rent a house. I'm sure it's very small, but you know what she was most proud of telling me about that house? Mary, it has 2 doors. So this is what feeds my soul. I hope you find something like that to feed your soul too. And then this is Dr. Hamid. She has an obstetrics and gynecology health services clinic in Kandahar, Afghanistan. I met her last June when I did a training with Rwanda and Afghanistan women, helping them let their voices be heard, giving them communication tips on growing their businesses. And I mentioned that at that point I was a 6-time cancer survivor. And during the question and answer period, she raises her hand and she says to me, "Oh my gosh, how do you go on?" Oh my gosh, with what this woman is doing, she's risking her life to provide medical services to the women and children in her community, and she's asking me how I go on? And I said to her very honestly, I go on because of women like you. You are the ones that make me go on. And, you know, I couldn't be any more truthful about that. So, that is Feed Your Soul. And of course, the last one of the 7 things is celebrate. The champagne bubbles. So every time after I have surgery, I like to take a beach trip. So Runa took me to the beach. How do you pronounce where we went? Natold? Natold. Wasn't quite the type of beach I was thinking about. She welcomed me to put on my suit and go swimming, and I told her I would if she would. So, no, I do plan on doing a beach vacation this summer, but this is my first international trip after my surgery. So this was a big milestone for me as well, and a celebration as well to be here. So what I want you to remember is what cancer cannot do. And cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot destroy peace. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot suppress memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot invade the soul. It cannot steal eternal life or conquer the spirit. Now, I have to be honest, this is the kickoff of what I call my world tour of speaking on the 7 things I've learned from having cancer 7 times. I literally hope to present this, all over the United States and around the world. And I was very fortunate. I came to Iceland for the Brandit program that Hulda told you about, that Runa and her co-founder put on, and I do training with it. And the artist Gega was part of the Brandit program this weekend, and I was thrilled to walk in and see her artwork all around. But she has done another thing, is she's made this necklace. And this necklace is called the Smiler. And it's something to remind us to always smile. And she does it so much better than me. But you can put it in and it makes you smile. So what I'm going to do as part of my speeches is to encourage people to get the Smiler, because it's important to remember to smile. And I know Gega is going to be talking to the society here, and what our goal is to sell these necklaces and to have part of the proceeds to go to the Cancer Society that is wherever I am speaking. So stand up so they see you. They can talk to you afterwards. And she's willing to start that here immediately, and I know she's going to be talking to the group here about doing a big campaign with that, right? And so I'm so thrilled to kick this off now. And I just want to, so you know that, yes, I am human. I went into a very severe depression with my January surgery. It's not always easy. And I need things like the Smiler. And I need friends like Runa to get me through it. I probably didn't talk to people for about 2 months because, I was just really, really depressed. And then I had had enough of it. And I advocated, went to my doctor and said, this has got to change. Worked a lot with different medicines to help me. And here I am. And I can truly say that I am feeling well again. But I did want to add that I'm not always like this. You know, about a week after my surgery, I had a pretty tough day, and I was just screaming, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, my surgeries are not easy recoveries. And but it's these tips that help me get through it and help me get back to where I am today. And it's groups like you that help that as well. So I really want to thank you for being here and thank you for your time. Thank you.